this haiku, the one I'm going to be showing you in the project, is one that's been personally inspiring for me for many, many years, and I thought a lot about carving it in wood. And before I go into the whole project, let me just give you the story, the inspiration for the haiku itself. It was written by a Zen monk called Ryokan, though I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not. But Ryokan lived in about the 18th century, end of the 18th century, in Japan, up a mountain, in a little hut in the woods, in the bamboo grove, something like that. And he would come down to the village with the baking bowl or to play with the children. He wrote a lot of stories, a lot of a journal, poems, haiku, this sort of thing. So he was a bit of a writer as well. But the important thing is, and how this has come about, is that one evening he was returning from the village. So he went back up to his hut. It was night time, and when he arrived at his hut, he found that the hut had been completely ransacked. A thief had got in and taken what few possessions he had, and he had very few possessions. They'd taken his mattress, they'd taken his bowl, they'd taken his calligraphy set. So as he stood there, and I imagine him standing there in his little hut at night time, completely dark, with suddenly realizing all his possessions had been taken, he then writes a haiku, and the haiku says, "The thief left it behind, the moon at my window." And I think this is a fantastic, wonderful, inspirational little haiku. It's been a pleasure to carve it, and I'm going to show you my process right from the beginning. I thought you'd like to see the wood that I've started with. It's oak boards that have been kept in a barn for about 40 years, and if I look at them I can see they're badly warped, there are knots, splits and so on. The sort of wood I wouldn't normally use for carving at all. However, what we're seeing also is water staining. So the barn's had a leaky roof, it's been dripping through, and the water's got on this wood and produced these very interesting patterns. So I'm thinking I'm going to leave the surface exactly like this. I'm not going to try and finish it at all, and that's going to be a perfect board for my haiku, because it has a degree of this, what the Japanese called wabi-sabi, which is a sort of impermanence, natural, decaying sort of side of things, which I think will suit very well for this haiku. Anyway, the water stain is very interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find three boards, or three parts of the boards, that'll fit together and make something hopefully quite interesting. It took me quite a while to figure out which boards I wanted, backwards and forwards, but eventually I've arrived at these three boards. So this is the top line of the haiku, there's the middle line along here, there's the bottom line along that one. And what I've done, it's hard to really describe it, but what I've done is I've sort of tried and match these two boards together as a sort of cloudscape, because there's going to be a moon. And this bit over the bottom here looked like a bit of a landscape. So that's the sort of way I'm thinking. And I've arranged the boards so that it's a bit broader at the bottom, middle and shorter at the top. So there's a sort of strength here, a sort of a triangular sort of shape. What I'm also going to do is add a piece of wood like this in here. So I've had these boards planed up, so this is now a fresh edge along there, you see, but I haven't touched this surface. And there's going to be another one in here, something like that. So this will all glue together, and I'm using little pads in here in these sash clamps to make sure I don't damage the wood, which is a bit amazing really, given that it's not very good wood, but I love it as it is, that raw nature. So I've lined up here with sellotape, so I'm not marking the wood, where I think these boards will go together. And I'm going to glue the whole thing using a wood adhesive indoor. This is exterior, but it's going to go inside, so this is a straight PVA type wood adhesive. Now the mirror itself is going to go in this corner here, that's my idea. I'm not exactly sure where. It will depend a little bit on the lettering, but I think it'll be somewhere like this, so I will have to route out the hole in here. But first things first, I'm going to glue all this together like this. I'm not going to try and, this wood's wavy, I'm not going to try and do anything with those. I'm going to leave them exactly as they are, as sort of strips going through. Again, I can't really say why I want to do this. It's something about the balance and how I feel, but I think that looks very interesting. I like the clouds, I like this sort of shape, and I think there's something very interesting going on here. So, next stop, gluing up. The glue has had 24 hours to go off. It's nice and strong, nice and firm. I've put the board up so that I can see it, and what I've done is I've started playing around with the lettering and where the mirror will be. The mirror, the one I've got is this size, but I'm actually going to have it a bit smaller coming through from the back. And so I've been playing around with different sizes of mirror. Where will that go, and so on. How does it relate to this in the back? Does it want to be smaller, up, down, and so on? So I ended up somewhere about here where I sort of liked it. And then here I've been playing with the lettering. So this is rough paper, rough pencil line out, and things you've got to think about here are, you know, like the size. I've tried this like at a different size here. Do I want the thief? That's part of the haiku, of course, but is it shouting the thief, you know, and that in bigger capitals, that's the effect. Here, for example, do I want this getting bigger here? I looked at that. So but again, that's sort of pointing there, is that, or shall I just keep it quiet like this? Do I line it up like that, or further over here? All these sort of things are like, you know, like here I'm going to line this probably in a line here. Is this bigger than this? I'm not sure about that, but I've got what I think is a preliminary layout. It's going to be something like this, with this sort of spacing, in this sort of way. So the important thing now, or the important thing, what I've been doing is to play around lots and lots of options, because once we cut this in the wood, it's done. So this is the stage where you have to get everything right, and there's lots of preparatory work, playing around different options. There's no right or wrong. What do you feel about it? So having worked on that, the most important thing for me now is to decide that that moon is going to be this size, and as it's coming through the back, what I have to do is cut a hole this big here so that this will come through from the back. So that's my next job, is to make this moon here. The lettering will follow from that. I've used my router to cut out a hole at the back here, and I'll put details of what I did in the download. The important thing is that I've ended up with a thin edge here, and this edge is flat because the mirror fits in like so and wants to sit cleanly on that edge. I've also sanded it here to make sure it's not too hard. So the mirror, and this is a curved one that I've had made, although you can use of course I could have used a flat one, but I rather like it sticking out. So the mirror will go there, there's a backing plate on there, which I'll fix in, and that'll be my mirror. So that job's done. I can now start laying the lettering on the wood itself.